Welcome back to Plague of Shadows. Last time we took on Mole Knight, also learned how to dance, and got ourselves some new armor from the Tropical King. Although, it's not exactly new armor, it's more like our old cloak just having a new coat of paint on it, really. Well, coat of spit would be the proper word. And it allows us to magnetize things toward us, such as money, food, potions, stuff like that. Can't magnetize cipher coins, so you still have to go out of your way to collect a lot of those, but I'm glad it doesn't. That would have taken a lot of the fun out of it. At least I think so. And now we're in the Iron Whale here. Something else that's kind of detrimental about the... what is this one called? The treasure trappings. Other than the fact that it can magnetize things when you don't want it to, is that sometimes it's hard to tell whether or not you have a charge. Like, the flashing is a bit more difficult to see because when you're charging up, you're blue, and when you're, you know, your cloak is blue, is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, a bit of a nitpicky downside to it. It's not really one that I find myself having a problem with, but you know, other people might. As for Treasure Knight's official bio, towering over most of the Order of No Quarter, Treasure Knight is a tidal terror. A loner by nature, he rules the ocean as captain of the Iron Whale, a prototype underwater vessel. With his retractable anchor cannon and impermeable diving suit, he is at home on the seafloor where he spends his days hunting down ancient relics. Just keep your hands off his hard-earned lucre, or you'll find yourself floating home. Pros: can handle extreme physical and mental pressure. Cons: greedy and unintelligible while wearing his helmet. Though that doesn't seem to actually be a big problem for him, considering text. And this stage is a bit more unorthodox compared to other Plague Knight stages. Obviously it's a water stage, but there's more to it than that. I mean, having to do with the relics. The float burst is kind of useless here, at least when you're underwater, because you float down about as fast as you'd float down while underwater, so there's really physically no difference other than you can't do a charge burst without actually first pressing down, after already having done a burst, I mean. Like, you can't immediately do 2 bursts in a row. Although, well, there might be a feat that you can get very easily in this stage. I didn't really think about it, and I actually haven't recorded up to the point where I'd get this feat. I definitely am going to get it now that I've thought about it, but there's a feat for staying in midair for 10 seconds, and the float burst is the easiest to do it with. But using a regular burst along with the underwater physics might also, you know, help you do that. Because the float burst by itself actually can't even get you that feat for staying in midair for 10 seconds. You have to do a little something extra. Well, it's not that extra. All you have to do is just keep spamming bombs while you're in midair because it keeps you in the air for a little bit longer. But I'll be getting that soon, I guess. I'm just trying to remind myself of it. Speaking of feats, actually, I can go on this little tangent for now because, well, we're going through the same stage as I did with Shovel Knight. But there's feats pertaining to a lot of Shovel Knight's relics. And yes, this is more tangential than you think because I'm talking about Shovel Knight stuff rather than Plague Knight stuff, but Shovel Knight's relics each have, well, not all of them, but a lot of them have their own feat associated with them. And I got a couple of them. For example, the one for I think it was staying in midair for 4 seconds using the dust knuckles. I definitely got that one. That was really easy to get. But some of them are a bit harder, like the alchemy coin one. You need to bounce the alchemy coin back 5 times off of an enemy. It's like it bounces off the enemy and then it comes back to you, and then you hit it with your shovel and it bounces back to the enemy. The easiest enemies to do that with are the knights that have the shields in front of them. And you have to do it, well, not have to do it, but I'd recommend doing it before they notice you. Because if they do notice you, then they'll start walking towards you, and if they get close enough, it's not going to work. So you need to be a good distance away from them, send out the coin. It'll bounce off of their shields and not damage them, and then come back to you. You hit it with your shovel and just repeat the process until you actually get the feat. And then there's one using the mobile gear, defeating 5 enemies with 1 mobile gear, as I recall it. The easiest way to get that one is probably going to be in Plague Knight stage, in the area that you get the alchemy coin in Shovel Knight's campaign, the area that we get the Staff of Surging in Plague Knight's campaign. There's a bunch of enemies kind of on the ground below Shovel Knight, so just use it there. And I don't think it's slow to the point where the fire will actually hurt you that comes up, because fire does come up in that area, kind of like with the platforming challenges, so it's pretty easy to do, I think. And then there's a couple more that are kind of easy to get in sort of the first stage in the final area of the game. There's a ladder where there's a bunch of propeller rats nearby, and there are 5 of them. What I did was I used the phase locket a little bit to keep myself invincible, to let them all draw near me. And then I used the horn, I think it's called the war horn, to defeat like all 5 of them at once. It was pretty easy. You could also use that section to do the thing that's like use the propeller blade to kill 3 enemies in midair without touching the ground. You could also get that one, but that's enough of that tangent. Now to talk about something actually kind of pertaining to Plague Knight here. As you can see, we have the blue chest very early on in this stage. Rather than it being we get a big brown chest, you know, an actual like wooden one with a relic inside that we don't need, and then later on seeing the blue chest with Chester in it. This stage it's backwards. That's what I was talking about when I said that it was weird earlier on. We get the relic early on, and later is when we actually get to the extra Plague Knight only section, and in that area is Chester, rather than Chester being in an actual blue chest. So that's kind of odd, but it's fine. You know, the relic is pretty early on in the stage. It's not really at the halfway point, so I can see why they did it like that. It's just kind of a weird thing, or maybe it adds uniqueness to this stage, which was already pretty unique. Maybe it'll make you like it more or something. Either way, it's just kind of a oddity of this stage. Another thing about the treasure trappings, it does attract bubbled money as well, so it doesn't matter if it's underwater or not, it'll attract it to you. And for some reason, I don't think your bombs can destroy these projectiles that these fish, I don't know what to call them, let out. With Shovel Knight, you couldn't destroy them either, but you could scoop up your shovel and kind of reflect them back. With Plague Knight here, you can't do that. If you throw a bomb at it, the bomb will explode on it, but the projectile itself won't be destroyed, which is kind of lame. But that's just how it is. And we've come up to the Plague Knight only section. Kind of oddly early. Well, not early, but it's very soon after getting the relic. Or maybe I'm just thinking weirdly, like thinking that things are longer than they should be. Because like when I was playing the game and recording it, things felt pretty long. Maybe it's because I was having to think precisely and stuff, but watching it, it feels a bit shorter. Like especially the travel dance, I thought that was going to be a lot longer than it actually was. And it was still pretty long, but just not as long as I had initially thought. And as you can see, this potion really, really wants me. And I'm not going to deal with it. Usually I just throw a big bomb at that guy to take him out, but this time I guess I didn't. And we are getting very close to the end of this section, and very close to what is possibly my favorite relic, or arcana, for Plague Knight. It is one that was used in his boss fight, and one that I'm surprised didn't come up earlier. But I'm glad it came up now because it's a bit overpowered, I guess. Well, then again, the Phase Locket was really overpowered in my opinion, and they gave you that one like second. Well, second considering the way that I played the game. It was in the second stage I played. It could have been your first. And I guess the Big Boom was in the first stage that I played, and that one's also pretty overpowered. But Chester's here in another blue chest. For some reason I thought this was like a regular wood one. And we get the Vat. The Vat is not the same as it was in the boss fight with Plague Knight in Shovel Knight's campaign. Rather than creating sort of obstacles that you can throw a bomb at and they'll explode, he instead creates a platform that you can stand on for a bit. It will eventually fall down, but it just adds to the flight, essentially, of Plague Knight. Like, you can get so much airtime using the Vats. Thing is, though, that they take up 3 chunks of the meter, just like the Leech Liquid. So you're not going to be able to spam them, and again, if you have no upgrades or just one upgrade to your power meter, then you won't be able to use it that much. You can only use it once before you have to go into that forced recharge state. These guys that generate shields around them, I like to use the Big Boom against them because, well, the anchor kind of blocked my Big Boom there. But if you use the Big Boom against them, then you can pretty much destroy their entire shield, which do block your bombs, so those are kind of lame. And you could also hit them in the process for 1 or 2 hits with the Big Boom. And they changed this section up a little bit. They made these blocks here for you to be able to, you know, jump onto, I guess, for these anchors. But honestly, you don't need those blocks. A double jump and the bursts will get you across pretty well. And considering we just got the Vats, we probably didn't need the anchor at all. Oh, that reminded me of something that I was meaning to talk about before, but I didn't actually get into it at all during this Let's Play, even though it's been pretty prominent. There are a lot more fishing spots as Plague Knight than there are as Shovel Knight. And, of course, a lot of them do contain the potions rather than fish, but still, a lot of the level design has changed to accommodate for these extra fishing holes, I guess you could call them. Like, in King Knight stage is a pretty good example. There's a bit with 3 chandeliers, I think it was, and in Shovel Knight's version of the stage, there's a bed of spikes beneath those chandeliers. In Plague Knight's version of the stage, it's not a bed of spikes anymore, it's a bottomless pit that has the sparkly bits that you can, you know, you can use to get a potion. I don't know why that took me so long to say. Also, apparently, I didn't say this, but there's an NPC who actually tells you that going to the left in King Knight stage is the right thing to do. That's not what he said verbatim, but it's pretty close. Like, going left is right in King Knight stage. And that's how you're supposed to know about the music sheet that's hidden to the left of that stage. So it's not as bad as I was making it seem before. If you talk to the NPCs, you'll figure it out. Same with learning that you can bomb burst multiple times in the air. If you talk to some of the, and there I am, I'm dancing. If you talk to some of the minions in Plague Knight's place, you can actually learn that you can bomb jump multiple times, or learn that you can have different sets of bombs in order to change up how your bombs work. Of course, I usually stick with basic stuff, you know, black bombs, black powder, rather, not drop casing, bounce casing, and a normal fuse. And it does make short work of I forgot his name, Treasure Knight here. That's the first time I've ever gotten hit by that attack. If the treasure chest actually sucks you in, which it can do if, say, a bomb hits you while you're trying to avoid getting sucked in, then it'll actually take 500 gold away from you after it spits you out and does damage. So that's kind of lame, but it's only 500. You get, 5 times that for actually beating Treasure Knight, so not too detrimental. Yes, that's the word. I was going to say difficult, but it's not difficult at all. And a little bit of more tension between Mona and Plague Knight here. You actually need to walk forward in order to play this cutscene. And the music kind of goes along with it, which is a touch that I didn't notice before. I'm only noticing it now. But of course, the situation is ruined thanks to Percy, who ruins everything. But, so much for that then. I think I have all the cipher coins necessary to actually do the rest of Mona's research. At least to, get the rest of the bomb casings and powders and... What was the last thing? Fuses, yes. And bursts. Bursts also. But yeah, I have pretty much all of it now. I can buy whatever I want. And you might have seen a little glimpse of it right there. But I was about to call him Shovel Knight. Plague Knight cannot dance in this room. We'll see exactly what that means in a little bit. But for now, I want to buy up a bunch of these casings and powders and fuses and bursts. These bomb components, I guess I could call them. And I'm not sure if I'm going to buy all of them. I do have enough money for all of them, I think. But I don't know if I'm going to buy them all. I kind of hope that I am so I could show all of the different types. And also we got another health potion from Mona. And our health increased to 5 again instead of increasing to 6. On my other version of the game, I have it on the 3DS, which is where I'm playing my other, playing alongside this one using different, things. Different armors, different bombs, stuff like that. As we saw, float casing sends your bombs upward, drop casing sends it on either side of you, roll casing sends it outwards like a boomerang. And I kind of want to talk about the different bomb types before I get into the thing that I was talking about before. This cascade powder, you can only throw one at a time, but if you throw it even in midair, then it will send a projectile down that, causes the fire again. You can't really use it very well in midair, is what I'm trying to say. The sparkler powder doesn't do contact damage with enemies, so if it hits them, it's not going to explode on them. But the explosion, as a result, is kind of more powerful. Or rather, the bomb kind of produces electricity while it's out. And so if you're kind of throwing the bomb at an enemy and it passes the enemy, it can hurt it, it just won't explode on it, which is a bit weird. We also have the bullet burst, which sends out a projectile forward, and the spin burst, which is kind of like a screw attack. It's also what the goo garment gives you as a special ability. If you hit a wall after bursting, then you'll do that spin burst. Back to what I was trying to talk about before. Plague Knight can't dance here, he'll instead twiddle his fingers. That was not actually the thing I wanted to talk about. The health potion thing. On the 3DS version of the game, I wanted to see if the health potion glitch, I guess, is still there. And it isn't. I got far enough into the game to where I got 2 health potions and my health was not at 4 anymore. It was at 6, even though I hadn't died. So that's just kind of weird. But now that I have all the different powders, I can throw them all into Oolong and finally get the excuse me, the feat for doing so. Poor Oolong. So yeah, you get a feat for throwing all the powders into Oolong's head. Now though, we get to go into one of those special minigame stages, just like with, you know, the one that we did previously, which had to do with the bait bomb. This is the bottomless quarry, and it has to do with the vat, which is amazing, because the vat, like the dust knuckles, like the, propeller blade, there we go, allows you to stay in midair for so much longer, and that's so nice. Also, the vat apparently doesn't take 3 meters, it takes 2.5. So, that's pretty cool. But I just enjoy very much the vat. The ability to get so much extra airtime by essentially making a platform underneath you is just so cool to me. You know, everybody's like, oh, Mario Odyssey did it first, he could throw his hat and use it as a platform. Nah, it was Plague Knight. Plague Knight did it first. And there are a bunch of cipher coins here as well, but considering that we've gotten all the bombs that are on offer, there's not really a reason to collect all the cipher coins. At least Mona says so. She says that collecting them all doesn't really have a purpose. She has some scribbles in her notebook that might have something to do with getting the cipher coins, but she doesn't think we could make it even if we got every last one of them. So, that's a thing. And I drink leech liquid just to show that it takes 3 meters, I guess. And this, the Iron Whale extra jewel encounter stage, I do so much better as Plague Knight in this stage, just because I have that extra jump, I have the bomb burst, I can stay in midair for so much longer, and actually, you know, collect all this money. You know, the magnetism also helps a lot. But it's just so much better to play this version of the stage. And I do say this version on purpose because there are some slight changes. Like, for example, some bubble platforms where there aren't usually because Plague Knight doesn't have the ability to shovel drop off of enemies to get extra height. So, that's a thing. Back onto the fact that we have a ton of bombs, or at least a ton of bomb types. Like, doing the math, that's a lot of different combinations. So you have, I think, 5 versions of each bomb, like of each bomb component. So 5 bursts, 5 powders, 5 casings, 5 fuses. That's like 5 to the 4th different combinations, and 5 to the 4th is, it's 625. It's like, yeah, that's 25 squared. I think that's 25 squared. I can't do math. I mean, I can. I'm pretty sure I was correct. Anyway, we can take the catapult again to head back to the village. Actually go kind of above ground this time. And there's a picture in the hedge farmer's house that I didn't notice before, showing the other hedge farmer, the one they get surprised at Shovel Knight being able to dig up a pile. I actually didn't notice that until now. But if you missed that music sheet, or if you missed any cipher coins up here, you actually can get back to them via that catapult. And the bard is actually kind of excited because, well, we have the music sheets. And the bard always gets excited when we have music sheets. But we're not going to be giving them to him. We're going to be giving them to Percy, of course, because, well, Percy's the person that gives us money for our music sheets. Although not for the same reason that the bard does. And I guess I'm going to be giving this one to Percy because we just got one from the Bottomless Quarry, which was such a fun stage. And of course another romance tip. Percy gives tips for romance, as does the Magicist, although Percy's tips are a lot more odd. The Magicist says more normal things sometimes. It's really weird. You should check the dialogue on your own. Anyway, next time we'll head to the last set of stages in Plague of Shadows.